Our next speakers will be on foreclosure in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, are communities that have had a very high foreclosure rate. I think they're maybe the highest suburban foreclosure rate in the metropolitan area. Dana Slimmer will be our first speaker on foreclosure, and she is a housing specialist with Community Action Partnership of Suburban Hennepin. She works directly with clients who are facing problems with paying their mortgages and need to get adjustments, and she helps them with speaking with their lenders and getting some changes in their mortgage payments. She also works with seniors who are considering reverse mortgages, where the bank pays them over time. And she works with people who are buying a home for the first time or people who would like to refinance their home. Her topic is foreclosure prevention resources in the community and current foreclosure trends.
Good evening. First I want to apologize. I'm not a public speaker. I spend my day in a little 8x8 cubicle with my headset on, talking to people all day. And my PowerPoint didn't quite work out, so I get to read you a little bit of it. Community Action Partnership is located in St. Louis Park. Most people know us for our energy assistance program, but we have a very active housing department. I work in primarily foreclosure. There's 4 counselors, and our job is to work with homeowners, educate them on the process, let them know how it works with the, how the programs work with the lenders, how the process of foreclosure works in Minnesota. We also work on budget counseling. We do negotiate with the lender. It's not as easy as she made it sound, but we try to work with the lenders to try to have them and the homeowners get on the same track. And we also give them information on alternatives to foreclosure. Sometimes staying in the home is not the best option for some people, and we try to help them figure out how to transition out so that it at least hurts them financially, credit-wise, things like that. So sometimes my job is making 1 or 2 phone calls. Sometimes it's connecting people with other resources in the community. Sometimes it's working a year or 2 of sending packet after packet of information in and working with lenders that way. Our goal is to find the best solution for each client. And like I said, that doesn't always mean staying in the home. We work with them. We don't do everything. Some people say, here, come fix this. We work with the clients on how they can move through the system. It's a partnership, actually. We're not doing it for you. You're not doing it yourself. We're doing it together. And it's surprising sometimes how people get frustrated working with their lenders. We jump in, make a phone call or 2, things get back on track. And unfortunately, that's sometimes the way it is because a lot of lenders are hiring low-paid, they may take a 4-hour course on how to do your job, and that's what people are dealing with. So sometimes it can get very frustrating. We know how the system works, so sometimes that helps us work with the lender and helps us push people's applications through the process. And at Community Action, we have a success rate of about 60–65%. Which we think is pretty good. I know statewide they say it's about half and half. Just to give you a little idea of how the foreclosure process works in Minnesota, once you miss a payment, you're going to get some phone calls, you're going to get some letters. Second payment, you're going to get some more letters from the lender and a few more phone calls. About the 3rd month you're behind, they're going to turn it over to an attorney. And they're going to send you what's called a pre-foreclosure notice. This is very important in Minnesota. We're one of the few states that has this where the lender has to let you, the consumer, know that there's free counseling services to help you. No one should ever have to pay for foreclosure assistance. There are free services in the whole state. Some are locally based, some are phone services, but you should never have to pay for that service. So you get notified by them. They also have to notify agencies like ours to send notices to people in our area. We get a name and an address, we're told they're 3 months behind. We send them information saying, hey, we're here, we want to help you. Next step, they schedule what's called a sheriff's sale, which is a paper sale of the home. They have to publish notice in a legal newspaper at least 6 weeks before the sale. They have to notify the home, or they have to notify the occupant of the home at least 4 weeks before the sale. And the sheriff's sale is kind of, it's not the end of the process, but it's the end of the time that you can do something. Up until that point, you can work out a modification, you can work out some type of payment plan, you can bring it current. Once that sale occurs, it goes into what's called the redemption period for 6 months. Your only option then is to pay the loan off in full, which if you're in foreclosure, is very rare that you could find someone to refinance it for you. So it kind of gives you a fast track a year from start to finish. And you hear stories of people staying in their homes 2, 3, 4 years after a process is started. A lot of that's up to the lenders. We've heard of people falling through the cracks. They file bankruptcy. The lender puts them on a stay where they're not allowed to collect, and then they forget to take them off. That happens. But normally it's about a year in the process. Working with the lenders, there are a number of different options to try to help a homeowner. The sooner you get working with your lender, the more options there are. Reinstatement is bringing your account current. Sometimes you can do that. You just had a bad month. It might take you a month or two, but you can get caught up. Sometimes you can get community assistance from your local emergency assistance programs. Family, friends, that's an option. Repayment plan is where, let's say you're 3 months behind and they say, okay, we're gonna take those 3 months, spread it over 12 months to get you caught up. You make your regular payment plus a little bit until you're back on track. A forbearance is a temporary reduction in the payment or not making the payment. This can help, let's say you're unemployed and you don't have to make your payment for 6 months, or you only have to make half of it. The only downside is when that forbearance time is over, you have to bring it current again. So that sometimes that can be a hassle. The big one that most people are trying to get is what's called a loan modification. And that's some type of adjustment to your payment, your rate, your term, somehow to lower it to a payment that's affordable. Most people know or have heard of the Making Home Affordable program, which is a government program. Their goal is to get people's payments to 31 to 38% of their gross income. To do that, they can extend the term. Some lenders will go to 40 years. Some will reduce the rate down to 2%. Different programs from different lenders. To throw another shoe into the mix, there's also, you have your lender who you're making your payments to, but you also have your investor, the agency that owns that loan. So you've got 2 levels that are overseeing your loan, and sometimes you can work something out with your lender, but if the investor doesn't approve it, it may not work. The 2 biggest investors are the government-backed agencies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But it can be that just we joke about it at work, some sausage king in Chicago, a bunch of guys that own your loan. They have an investment group and they buy mortgages. They could own your loan. If they don't want to do a modification, they don't have to. Right now there's, to my knowledge, no laws that say they have to do it. There are laws saying how they should do it if they're willing to work with you, but a lot of it is just voluntary programs through the government and through the lenders. As far as moving out of the home, transitioning out, you can work with your lender on a short sale, which is the lender's agreeing to accept less than what you owe in order to sell the house and move on to a new homeowner. And then there's a rare process called a deed in lieu of foreclosure, where they just basically let you sign it back to them. It's not a common practice. In 5 years, have only seen it twice. So, but it's basically you just sign it back and give them the keys and they own the property again. Part of our job is trying to connect people with community resources. I had a really nice graphic on it, but it's not going to work. We found that people were coming to our agency for one thing, but they didn't know what other groups in our agency do, so we make sure that anyone who comes in for foreclosure assistance knows about energy assistance, food support, reverse mortgage, tax prep, things our other departments do. But we also refer out to employment agencies like Hired. We refer people to LSS and Family Means for financial assistance, budgeting. It's amazing how many people have no clue how much they make or how much they spend. And then they wonder why they can't make their checks go as far as they need to go. Housing Link, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, Senior Housing Guide, County Emergency Assistance, local emergency service providers such as SEEP, Legal Aid, the bar associations, and the realtor associations. This is specific to Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. It's a little dark, but it's pre-foreclosure notices. And it goes from 2007 to current. We're the agency that serves this area. So you can see at one time in 2009, it was a high of over 200 residents receiving these notices. That means in 1 month, 200 people in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center were 3 months late or more on their mortgage. And you can see how it's gone down a little bit, then it climbed again in 2011, and it's still rather high, between 50 and 75 a month. They kind of quiet down in the holiday months, November, December. The lenders have quotas and stuff, so they tend to slow down in the holidays and then pick up again in January. What's kind of discouraging is the next slide. This is our intake, and it shows how many actual clients we've had from Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center each month. And you can kind of see how it did peak in 2008 and slowly gone down, up and down, but it's still smaller or less than the people receiving notices. It's kind of discouraging when you think, 50 to 75 people are receiving these notices and only 10 or 15 call to get help. So it's one of the things is we're trying to get the word out of who we are and what we do. And this is kind of showing how overall foreclosures have gone down. I think in 2008 or 2009, it was about 10 to 12,000 in Hennepin County. First half of 2013, it's only 1,500. So it's not pre-crisis numbers yet, but they are going down, thankfully. And you can kind of see how they relate to last year. Kind of close up here. And then the trends we're seeing right now in the marketplace is we're seeing repeat clients, people coming back. They got their modification in 2010, 2011. Now totally new crisis coming back. So we're seeing a lot of repeat clients. We're seeing a lot of people who have absolutely no income. Both of parties lost jobs, have nothing. Without income, there's not really anything the lender is going to be willing to work with you. They're looking at trying to work out an agreement on what you can afford, but if you have no money, you can't afford it. And those are quite frustrating. And then we're seeing people that have been lost in the cracks where, like the bankruptcies, they just stay at the home a long time and no one really asks them to make a payment. No one tells them they have to leave. And some of these people will try to make efforts to reach their lenders. Others I've seen as long as 3 years where they just, if no one calls me, I'm not leaving. So that's kind of the trend we're seeing right now. We're also seeing that lenders are trying to get people back into their properties. We're seeing programs that do contract, or banks that are doing contract for deeds with people that don't qualify for mortgages. We're seeing lease back programs where the lender's renting you back your house so you don't have to leave after the foreclosure. FHA has a new program out called Back to Work, which looks at people that lost their jobs, had an income loss of at least 20%, getting back into home ownership within a year if their credit goes up quickly enough, rather than, it used to be 3 to 5 years to get back into a home. So they're looking at only a year getting back into homes. And we're seeing a lot of first-time homebuyers. If you've been out of a home for 3 years, you're considered a first-time homebuyer again. And our program has increased at CAPS. We went from 1 counselor to 3. There's 2 of us that are now doing it half-time. And we're seeing a lot of people coming in looking at home buying, but they're taking their time, they're making sure their credit's right, they're making sure that what they're looking at is affordable. They're not jumping into homes that they can't afford. They're really, thinking about it before they get into it. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you for your patience with me.